G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. I do hope you're having a fantastic day, and with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn to the Barbie, and let's get right into it. Posted by user Butt Knuckles, titled, My 26 female, husband's 30 male, best friend 29 male, just kissed me, and I'm unsure of what to do. I'm an immigrant that recently relocated to another country to be with my husband after being long distance with him for several years. Needless to say, my husband is my best friend and I love him deeply. Because I've struggled making my own friends here, I'm on friendly terms with my husband's friends. They are all for the most part decent people and have welcomed me with open arms, which I'm grateful for. We all occasionally hang out, and it's never really been an issue. Recently, I began planning a surprise party for my husband's birthday, and I figured I would reach out to his friends about planning to see if they wanted to help. Enter my husband's best friend, Adam, 29 male. Adam has been my husband's friend for about 10 years now. Adam is married with a wife of his own, who I am friends with. Adam immediately was very supportive of my ideas and was insistent on helping. Many times he offered to drive me around the city to go to different stores since my husband and I don't have a car, which I would decline since I didn't want to cause him any hassle. He would offer to use his place of work as the location for the party. He works at a fancy restaurant. Again, I would decline because my husband isn't the type of person to enjoy birthday celebrations like that. But I would let him know that I appreciated this kind offer and that I felt that he was being very kind and generous as a friend. He was fairly persistent, but I figured it was just because he wanted to make his friend's birthday memorable. Fast forward to this week, Adam texted me and told me that he has a birthday gift for my husband, but he would need help loading it up in his car. I asked about what it was, but he said a joke about how I would tell my husband, so I couldn't know. I didn't think anything of it and agreed to help him today. We drove to the store, got the gift, wrapped, but it was big and heavy, and drove back. He put the car in park, and as I started getting out, he reached out and kissed me. I was taken aback, and I immediately pulled away. I asked him what he was doing, and he said he thought that I was cute and he wanted to shoot his shot. I asked him about my husband, and he said that he didn't need to know. I was just overwhelmed, and I couldn't begin to wrap my mind around what was happening. He apologized and said he thought that I was sending signals because of me saying he was a kind and generous person. He then said that my husband can't know about it because my husband would blame me and would divorce me. I'd have to go back to my home country, etc. I got out of the car and just went inside. My husband was at work, so he doesn't know. I have a lot of conflicting feelings. I know I want to tell my husband because how Adam went about this proves he doesn't have my husband's best intentions in mind and is incredibly selfish. My issue arises in how to go about telling him. I am super upset about this whole thing because it's a weird place to be in. I doubt my husband won't believe me because we have a good trust in each other, but I'm nervous as to how this will affect the relationship. I'm nervous he will redirect those feelings of betrayal towards me. If that's the case, would it be justified? I just need some guidance on how to approach this for minimal damage to my husband. I know it's bound to happen, but I obviously don't want to hurt him if I can. I appreciate any advice. Edit, I've seen everyone's comments saying to tell my husband the truth. I'm planning on telling him when he gets home. However, there seems to be some confusion as to what I'm asking for here. I know I want to tell him, but I'm unsure how to tell him without it having an effect on our relationship. My husband is a good man, but no one wants to be the bearer of bad news that their friend that they had known for years is an awful and manipulative person. I don't know how to breach the subject in a gentle way. I tend to let my emotions get the better of me, and this event has me thinking rather compulsively. I don't want to hurt my husband more than necessary. Any advice on how to tell him would be appreciated. Depending on what happens, I'll update when I can. I guess in this instance, you just tell him as honestly and as truthfully as you have told him anything in the past. It's good that you know that you have to tell him and you aren't going to be hiding this, because if you don't say anything and the friend gets to him first, that's obviously a terrible thing in your husband's point of view. I would just tell him everything that happened every step of the way, expose the surprise birthday party. Your relationship with your husband and the trust you guys have for each other trumps anything else happening here. Screw this best friend. The best friend obviously doesn't care about the husband at all. The faster that he's ejected from your life, the better. In the comments, Chris Lives in Alaska says, I had an acquaintance hit on my girlfriend in my own house. I caught him following her downstairs when he had no reason to be there. He was surprised and mumbled a few words, and my girlfriend was also surprised as she was confused as to why he had followed her. Needless to say, that guy was no longer welcome in my home, and I only ever saw him once again and simply ignored him that one time. I would tell your husband so that you can control the story. This dirtbag may lie to others about you, or maybe even to your husband. He's already demonstrated that he has no integrity. I would want my wife to come to me when these things occurred. It's one thing to have a strange man hit on your woman, but it's something else completely when a friend pulls this bullshit. Show your husband these responses in Reddit and ask him what he would want his wife to do. OP asks, were you upset with your girlfriend or hold any ill feelings? Did it have any impact on your relationship? I am nervous that this will cause trust issues that are unneeded, as I love my husband very much. I don't know how to assure him that I didn't warrant this. Should I also maybe show the texts between his friend and I? And they reply, I wasn't upset with my girlfriend. I was upset with the guy. It did make me more aware of this risk. My girlfriend was attractive, and I knew she received attention from men regularly. She worked in a restaurant. So the event did cause me to be more aware of how real this type of thing is, men propositioning attractive young women, although I never assigned any blame to my girlfriend. One thing my girlfriend didn't do, which I would recommend to you, she didn't apologize or assume any responsibility. None of it was her fault, so she felt no need to apologize for anything. Going downstairs, not being aware that he was following her, etc. This really cemented the fact that she played no part in it. It would have felt weird if she had apologized, so no, I never felt that she did anything wrong. Now, if he had been down there alone with her trying to make advances, and I found out through someone else, or if the guy had mentioned it to me, twisting the story, I would have been suspicious, and it could have eroded some trust in my girlfriend. The main thing for your husband is that he understands that this guy is a snake, and that you need him to understand this so that he doesn't give the guy any opportunity to stab him in the back again. You must risk sharing this story so that your husband understands the snake's true character. He also needs to know that so he understands that you don't ever wish to be around him again, so he doesn't wonder why you may avoid certain social settings. PassionFlow888 says, tell your husband ASAP, before Adam tries to change the narrative, and get your husband to side with him. Adam was stupid and disrespectful to you, your husband, and his own wife by making a move on you, then trying to turn it around and saying that you gave him signals. I would be very wary around him, and I worry what actions he would take to cover his ass. You need to protect yourself. OP replies, this was also what I was worried about. Adam seemed a bit unhinged when I didn't reciprocate. It is concerning. I will tell him tonight when he gets home. Update. Hi everyone. It's been a doozy over the last few days, and my post wasn't really all that popular, but I figured I'd update for those that may be curious. Before I go into big details, I just wanted to say thank you for your advice. My husband came home a few days ago, and I surprised him with his favorite meal. I had a day off, and was a ball of nervous energy, so I had cleaned the house, did laundry, and cooked. Basically, I wanted the environment to be as stress-free as possible for my husband because I knew that it was going to be hard on him. So we sat down to eat, and he had been able to tell lately that something's been bothering me, and he asked me what was going on. So I told my husband as gently as I could, and he was understandably upset. Thankfully, Adam didn't get to him before I did, and he believed me. I know a lot of people were worried about Adam telling my husband lies about what had actually happened before I was able to, but this didn't happen, thankfully. He was really mad at Adam for kissing me, but especially mad at him threatening me with deportation. We talked it through, and after a few hours, came to the conclusion that, in order to protect my residency, we would file a police report for assault against Adam. Thank you to those who suggested this. As we talked, Adam sent me a text message that said this: Hey, I just wanted to check in on you to make sure that you remembered what I said to you in my car yesterday. I really don't want you to go back to home country. I've also been thinking of you. Call me when you get this. We have things we need to talk about. Yeah, creepy stuff, plus low-key threats. It had my husband seeing red and me feeling scared, so I went to the police station that same night that I told him. They seemed freaked out by Adam's most recent text and agreed that it seemed like a veiled threat. So I filed a police report and they are investigating. As other Redditors pointed out, I wasn't the only victim in this situation. The next day, I texted Adam's wife when I knew that Adam was working to see if she wanted to meet up, and she said sure. So we met up and I told her what happened. I showed her the text, and sadly, she didn't take it too well. It's understandable, but this is what I was worried about. She seemed to think that I flirted with him, and she called me a homewrecker. I know this is probably out of lashing out, but it still made me feel bad, both for her and me, for Adam putting us in this situation. It's sad I lost a friend. Shortly after I met with his wife, Adam started blowing up my phone, but I didn't answer. I assume his wife confronted him, or the police called him. I'm not sure what set him off. He then sent me a bunch of texts that just got crazier and crazier to the point where I didn't feel safe. So I called my husband, who was at work, and he told me that Adam was blowing up his phone too. We ended up calling the police because Adam was threatening to come to our apartment and do what he should have done when I was in his car. Edit: I'm seeing some people saying negative things about Adam's wife. I feel it's important to remind Redditors that she is just as much of a victim here as I am. Adam and her have been together for a lengthy period of time, and it makes sense that in her hurt, she would lash out on the closest person. Adam's wife was very kind to me and the first friend that I made in this country. She would check in on me daily and invite me to meet her friends, cook food for me, helped me find work, etc. She has never once been malicious towards me, and I see no reason to believe that she will start now, and I hold no ill will to her either. In fact, I hope she's able to find peace because she didn't deserve what Adam did to her and their family. The only person in this situation that deserves your negativity is behind bars currently. Please be respectful to her, as she holds a place close to my heart. In the comments, Ataray says, I remember your original post and have kept it open in a tab because I was worried about you. I'm so glad you're safe now. Adam never believed that you were sending him signals. He's just a predator who used that lie to make you feel like you did something wrong. He used your vulnerability as an immigrant to threaten you and make you feel like you couldn't say no to his assault or report it to anyone. He was wrong. He didn't know you well enough to know that you were too strong for that. He was too confident in his ability to intimidate you. He just saw you as an immigrant bride and likely thought that your husband wasn't really in love with you because he thought your husband was like him. You probably aren't the first woman he's taken advantage of. He just got too cocky and made a really bad choice about his latest target. Hopefully your action has lessened the chances of him finding another victim. And OP replies, That's so sweet. I knew people wanted updates and I didn't want to keep people worrying. It was a trying week, but we made it through stronger in the end. I'm very thankful that I got the advice I did. Many commenters repeated what you said about Adam being a predator, and the thought never even occurred to me. Turns out you guys might be right. I'll never believe anyone who says that outside perspective isn't necessary. Lizzie says, I'm glad you filed a report against him. Who knows how many other women he has forced with threats into situations they don't want to be in. Also, kudos to your husband for being your rock. Being kind to someone is not flirting. There were no signals. It was clear that he was trying to manipulate you from the start and trying to trick you into his car. I'm glad that it didn't go worse for you because his threat makes it seem like he had something much worse than a kiss planned. Hopefully you make more friends in your community. Good luck. And OP replies, This was something the investigator said. I don't want to say too much for risking saying too much, but they seem to think that he's done this type of thing before. I'm just thankful that I have the support system I do, and the law enforcement took me seriously. Smooch No says, I'm so sorry that you've been through this. My blood is boiling for you. Adam is a predator, and I just wanted to be another person reassuring you that you did nothing wrong in this situation. Wishing you nothing but the best for you and your husband. And OP replies, Thank you. I'm thankful that I posted on Reddit for guidance. I think my husband and I were a bit too close to the situation and would have tried to explain Adam's behavior away. It was Reddit that made me realize that that was a viable option. Forever grateful to this site. Free Shavokadu says, Just how quickly Adam's mask dropped is insane. 10 years of friendship with OP's husband, 10 years of hiding who he was, and then the manipulation and abusive messages. Crazy. I wonder how much Adam's wife has had to deal with throughout the years. These guys are so good at hiding in plain sight. They know how to seem normal and friendly to people who matter, usually men they value, and only show their true face to their intended victims. They count on others to support them, and the scary thing is how often that happens. This is how predator priests and coaches, and heck, serial killers like BTK and the guy they just caught on Long Island, get away with it for years and years. OP's husband is a gem for having his wife's back. Should this be gem behavior? No, it should have been the bare minimum, but we're not there yet. Frayed44456 says, yeah, that was premeditated. He absolutely went for her because he thought that she was vulnerable because of the citizen status. That text came after with, there are things that we need to talk about, and essentially, it would be a shame if you have to go back to your home country, meant that he was going to coerce her into sex, and with the threat of deportation. Then when that didn't work and it all blew up in his face, just outright said that he would assault her. I don't know if any of you have read The Gift of Fear, but it certainly seemed to follow that he had this big plan for when he got her, but before that, wasn't planned out for her to say no, and he just gets beyond pissed when she said no. They don't have plans for when you say no. They need to convince you to go with them to that second location and assume that it will work, so they get really pissed when their plans aren't working out. Won't accept no is that red flag. OP absolutely did the right thing initially by telling her husband, and was able to protect her because of it. I honestly don't know what else to say about this one other than, yikes. That is absolutely scary behavior that we live amongst people like this, whose masks sometimes just don't slip. Thank God OP went straight to their husband, and thank God the husband believed her straight away, because you can see how situations like this would go downhill very quickly and end like they end up in some of these true crime documentaries. Anyway guys, that's all I have to say. I'd love to know what you have to say down in the comments below. Our next post is by user Crystal1, titled, My 28 male, girlfriend 26 female, announced the end of our sex life. Since we started dating nearly a year ago, my girlfriend has suffered a dozen yeast infections and a lot of yeasty discharge. The cause is uncertain, but she believes these infections and discharge are the result of getting an IUD. It's also possible that having raw sex is an aggravating factor. In any case, both of us have tried numerous antifungal meds, oral and topical, to no avail. My girlfriend's theory is that when she gets wet, the yeast grows on the string of the IUD, which causes the infections and discharge. This seems plausible to me, although I'm not a doctor, and I imagine it must be hell for her to deal with. Last night she told me she had enough and was not going to have sex anymore. I asked her if that just meant no penetration, but she said no. She's going to abstain from all sexual activity, including masturbation, because it's too much trouble to get aroused and deal with the subsequent yeast problems, and she needs to keep the IUD to manage her PCOS symptoms. My dilemma is that I love my girlfriend dearly and can envision spending the rest of my life with her. We have so many interests in common. We make each other laugh, we enjoy each other's company, and we care deeply for each other. But I have a very high sex drive and have never contemplated being in a sexless relationship before. I feel like a selfish asshole for thinking this at a time when my girlfriend is not feeling well, but I don't see how our relationship can continue. How can I tell my girlfriend about my needs without making it seem like I don't care about her suffering? Is there any saving this? Please note, I am not seeking medical advice. I'm just looking for advice on how to communicate my needs to my girlfriend without coming across as an asshole. I guess if you're not looking for medical advice and just trying to get your needs across, you could just kind of state how things have been, how this change in the relationship affects you personally, emotionally, physically, and just what impacts that could have on your relationship and you guys going into the future. Perhaps asking her about alternatives to the situation. Maybe it's not the IUD, maybe she can try something else that could perhaps be causing these infections so that you guys can come to a solution together and still have sex within your relationship so that things don't go downhill. In the comments, Honeydew D says, PCOS makes you prone to having yeast infections, and an IUD can increase your risk of getting a yeast infection, so she's getting hit hard. I imagine that she mostly meant this because she feels frustrated and hopeless, and probably uncomfortable. I went through something like this for a while after switching birth control, and my boyfriend and I were just passing the infection back and forth until I stopped taking birth control altogether. That doesn't sound like an option for her, but I encourage her to look at other options for birth control and PCOS treatment. She doesn't want to stop having sex forever. I think she's just really at the end of her rope at the moment. I think if you say all that you've said in the comments and above, I love you, I want to spend my life with you, I love sex with you, and while that's not the most important factor here, it is still very important to me, and I hope to you too. I can't imagine how frustrating this has been to you and physically uncomfortable and challenging. I think you should really consider other options and explore other treatments. Perhaps see a different doctor if possible. Ignoring the issue doesn't solve it. And the diet thing really does help a lot of people. Rather than tell her she needs to change, maybe make changes to both of your lives together and tell her that you'll be her partner in it. Cook healthier meals together, find substitutions to her favorite processed foods, or whatever foods are on the list doctors have told her to avoid. Foods can't solve all issues, but maybe taking steps together in the right direction will encourage her to look at other avenues and show her that you truly just want her to be happy. I wouldn't come at this about losing sex. This is a deeper issue. And at the crux is your girlfriend ignoring some health issues that could be dangerous for her long term. Darth Ganji says, when I had an IUD, I had reoccurring infections every time I had sex. It stopped when I had it removed. Maybe she needs to find an alternative to the IUD. And OP says, that sounds like what's happening here. She has the IUD to manage irregular periods stemming from her PCOS. An alternative would be to take the pill, but she's forgetful and thus won't consider going on the pill. She's so forgetful that I even have to remind her to drink water, otherwise she gets dehydrated. Getting dehydrated regularly and having a diet that has a lot of sugar doesn't help her situation. More hydration could help flush excess bacteria and give her body more strength to fight infections. Hey, this is a serious cause for alarm. I've had both the copper and hormonal IUD. Reoccurring infections made me grow so much scar tissue on my cervix that I'm no longer able to conceive. Your girlfriend needs to reevaluate what is okay and not okay. Abstaining from all sex, I would say, is extremely unhealthy. It's unrealistic and shows that she's in a state of distress over this. I would suggest she read more into bacterial vaginitis, which is most likely what's going on. Common issue with IUDs. Best of luck to the both of you. And OP replies, I didn't know about the scar tissue. That's definitely worrisome, although she doesn't want to have biological children because she has PCOS, and she says the fertility treatments are too difficult to be worth enduring. She's been to gynecologists who have tested her and concluded that she doesn't have BV, but rather a standard yeast infection. Not sure what she can do besides find an alternative to the IUD, which she's unwilling to do. Unsightly Fuzz says, quote, she doesn't want to have biological children because she has PCOS, and she says the fertility treatments are too difficult to be worth enduring. Okay, this is another example of misinformation. People with PCOS can and do get pregnant, often without fertility treatments. They may have more trouble, but if she's never tried it, she can't know that she will fail to conceive. So on the basis of mistakenly believing she can't get pregnant naturally, she decides that she doesn't want to have biological children at all. You may have to do more of the thinking in this relationship. Bless her heart, but she's not a critical thinker. Be diplomatic about it though. Update. I discussed how my girlfriend decided to end our sex life after nearly a year of dating. She cited health concerns, namely repeated painful yeast infections and a loss of libido due to hormonal birth control, as the reason for ending our sex life. I suggested to her that she see a doctor about both issues. She has seen a doctor about the yeast infections and gotten a powerful new course of antifungals. Hopefully she'll feel better in a few weeks. She doesn't want to do anything about her loss of libido though, because she doesn't think that I inspire her to want to have sex. Last night, she told me that she doesn't find me all that attractive, which makes her less interested in sex than she was before. She also said that I'm not good at flirting and doesn't make her feel like wanting to have sex, whereas her exes would turn her on with flirting. Moreover, she feels that I have sex like a dad and makes her feel like a wife rather than a girlfriend. I am devastated. She doesn't understand why I'm so upset and is terrified that I'm going to break up with her. She says she is happy with a sexless relationship and loves me so much and loves how much I care for her and loves all the things that I do for her. She tried to initiate sex last night and I was so pissed that I rejected her for the first time in our relationship and she burst into tears. She had a very active sex life for years before she met me. Even if she thinks it doesn't matter, it makes me feel very low to think that she felt more sexual attraction and interest for her exes, who treated her so poorly in her view. I understand that I have lots of room to improve on flirting and sex positions and whatnot, but wouldn't a partner who says she loves me so much want to help me with that, rather than give up on sex with me? Is that too much to expect from a woman who tells me all the time that she's looking forward to getting married to me? My therapist thinks that my girlfriend is assigning blame to me so that she doesn't have to feel bad about her loss of libido. I recognize that I'm partially responsible, but I can't help but agree with my therapist too. Update: I broke up with her. I was at her place and I started to pack my bag. She insisted that I leave immediately without packing my bag. I continued to pack my bag, and then she grabbed my right arm. She then started punching my right arm. She then grabbed my back, and I fell backward and hit my left arm on the edge of her bathtub. I wrestled free of her and got the hell out of her place. Further on the breakup, yes, I spoke to my ex. She and her roommate have concocted a different narrative, because I was angry when I broke up with her, and because I was physically abused by a chronically angry father as a child. My ex was scared for her safety. She was worried that I have my abusive dad's blood. Out of fear, she demanded multiple times that I leave her house. I insisted on packing up my stuff first, which made me a trespasser. Then my ex was entitled to use force to remove me from the premises, which is why she assaulted me. The reality is that I needed 30 seconds to pack my stuff. I am a completely non-violent person and would never hurt a soul, victim of abuse though I may be. My ex is here in the US on a student visa. She's terrified that if I press charges against her, she'll be sent back to Latin America and her entire life dream would evaporate. My ex, her friends, and her therapist now think that I'm unstable and narcissistic. I, my friends, and my therapist think that she's unstable and has borderline personality disorder. Sounds like an impasse to me, but that's okay. It's not like I want to be with her anyway. In the comments, Golden Mandala says, "People need to leave abusive partners. I'm so very glad that OP left. I hope he finds a girlfriend who he can build a healthy relationship with." I Am Your Daddy says, "I just got out of a relationship with an abusive partner who refused to compromise on anything and just generally didn't like me. It's just not that clear-cut or easy. I told myself 1,000 times that I should just leave, only to decide that I was being silly because being alone would be so much harder. Most people are just afraid to be alone. Having a shitty partner that takes advantage of you, lies to you, and hurts you constantly is still better than being alone forever and never finding anyone again. Those aren't the two options, but it's so damn hard to see that. You don't know that you'll find love again. Even once you get left or leave, it takes months to see how much you are compromising and losing out on in a relationship." And Hungry Treacle 3376 says, "That's one of the problems when you've never taken the time to get to know yourself. Most people have never been alone for more than a month or two before they jump into the next easy relationship instead of actually considering if the person is a healthy fit for them. The default should be single until you find a compatible partner, not, I need to find a new boyfriend or girlfriend. You need to be content with being single, otherwise you're just taking advantage of the other person to cover for your own insecurities and settling, and that's never going to lead to a healthy relationship. As I'm writing this, I realize it could seem like I'm directing this towards you personally, but I'm just using the colloquial you and trying to add on to your conversation." And yeah, I feel like that's some good advice to end on with that one. I am very glad that OP got out of that situation. It sucks how it turned out and how the friends of the ex and their therapist are backing her up on this, and I don't know how they don't see the forest through the trees. But hey, I guess everyone can give their own biased spin on situations. Maybe OP is giving us a biased spin. We don't know the ex's side of this situation. We don't know it from her point of view. It's hard to be objective sometimes. All I can say is I'm on OP's side and I support them in getting out of there because she does sound a bit crazy to me, I won't lie. That is a crazy reaction. That is a crazy way to accuse someone of potentially being violent to you when they've never been violent to you before. Oh my god, you've been a victim of violent abuse, therefore you're going to be violent and abusive to me when I'm telling you to get out of my house. I don't know, just the thought of being in a situation like that really scares me. I myself don't know how I would deal with something like that, and I hope never to be put in a situation like that. Anyway, guys, I'd love to know your thoughts on this story down in the comments below. And that's where I'm going to wrap up today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, obviously, let me know what you thought of everything here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.